Good evening, Word and World. How we thank God for another day. And we're excited, at least I am, and I believe you are too, that we are now about to get 15 minutes in the Word. Why 15 minutes? Because 15 minutes is enough time to change your life. Listen, I'm going to be here, and I thought about it. I said, should I say I'm going to be here this week or next week? I'm going to be here until I'm through talking. We thank God for our EP and studio who dice and slice and make everything fit. But I really want to share something with you today that I believe is a game changer. In fact about it, I'm going to be really honest with you. This message has been birthed, and I've preached this text and dealt with it, but it hits different now because in this pandemic, God has allowed me to come out with a renewed mind. Taking the limits off, understanding the possibility, seeing the potential. And I believe that I'm not the only one who's coming out of this pandemic because we are coming out. Those of you all who are like me in that, you know, coming out of this pandemic, you're coming out wiser, you're coming out stronger, you're coming out more focused. You're coming out understanding that there's some things in life you don't need, and there's some things in life you no longer want. This pandemic for a whole lot of us has been miserable in one sense, but it has been so impactful in the other. And I want to talk to you until I'm through. And I want to talk about what those who are like-minded individuals, as I stated, we know we're coming out here stronger, wiser, and smarter. We're coming out understanding some things that we don't need and understanding there's some things we no longer want. For those of you all who fit that, this word, I believe, is something you've got to take with you from now on. This is the kind of message that you're going to have to remind yourself of. I've said this so much, and I've said it until now I get to use it on my members. That constant review is the student's glue. That's an inside joke between me and EP. But the reality is that this is the kind of message where you're going to have to refer back to, because this is what you've got to take with you. Watch this. If coming out of the pandemic, you stay better. You see, in the pandemic, we went through some things, so we're coming out better. But if you're going to come out better and stay better, you got to have this word. I want to talk about, you ready for the title? And I want to be as simple and as clear as I possibly can. I want to talk about a word to remember for those that God's going to use. A word for you to remember so that when you come out, you can stay better. Because nothing's more miserable to me. Well, some things are, but this is a miserable thing. This in the top 5. That you were better, and then you fooled around and didn't do what you should have done so you could stay better. I'm not talking about salvation. That's free. I'm not talking about being in right standing with God, justified. That has already happened. What I'm talking about, brother, what I'm talking about, sister, is I'm talking about that place in the life of a believer where you have learned some things. Took you a while, but you've learned some things. And now your key, your responsibility is to maintain abiding. Let me see, can I be real clear? Because I don't want you to think this is one of them self-help messages. No. Because we can't help self. The Spirit has to help us. There ain't no power in us. We can have strong will, but you know that's not even good, because you can do the right thing with the wrong reason. Strong will people can do what's right, but spiritual people do what's right for the right reason. So when I talk about this is a word to remember, so that you can maintain. I'm not talking about your salvation. I'm talking about your focus. I'm talking about your fruitfulness. That's the stuff we've got to learn to maintain. Now, I want to bring you to this text, Luke chapter 22, verse 31 and 32. Luke chapter 22, verse 31 and 32. Now, let me see if I can't give you the personalities in the text. Luke, who's writing this, unlike the other gospel writers, Luke's writing was extremely detailed. You know, Matthew writes and it's kind of lofty because he's writing to let folk know Jesus came. John writes and it's real endearing. He's the beloved disciple. He's showing the deity of God, the love of God to the world through Jesus Christ. Mark gets his account from Peter, and everything is quick because Peter was a fisherman and he was unlearned. So, you know, people who ain't got a whole lot of learning, God bless them, but sometimes they talk real fast. And so Peter's just talking real fast, and Mark is writing his down. But Luke is the scholarly author of the Gospels, if I could say that. He writes from a lofty place. He's a doctor by trade. The boy is somebody. And so he's the one writing this, and he captures a conversation that Jesus is having with Peter. Now, y'all know who Peter was. Peter was the cat that was kind of up and down. He had that kind of seesaw kind of spirituality. You know, in 1 minute, he's able to declare, "Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God." And just a few verses later, he tells Jesus, after Jesus predicts his death, Peter says to Jesus, "You ain't going to die. That ain't going to happen." And Jesus has to tell Peter, "Get thee behind me, Satan." He rebukes him. 1 minute, Peter is under the influence of the Spirit and can declare who Christ is. On the other hand, he can instantly be under the influence of the enemy and try to stop Jesus from doing what it is Jesus said. That's Peter. Him and Jesus are having a conversation. Now. What we know, Peter doesn't know when the conversation is taking place. Peter doesn't know that in just a few days, he's going to take main stage at the Jerusalem conference. And he's going to preach his first sermon. And 3,000 people, Peter don't know that when they're having this conversation. Peter's mind is not on, he has no idea what God's about to do with it. Stop. Because that's a word for you. You see, when I talked earlier about people coming out of this better and staying better, some of you all thought, well, that ain't my word because, I'm pretty much in the same place. No. You are better off right now than you were when this pandemic started if you understand you don't know what God has for you in your future. You ain't got to you ain't even got to understand it. If you can believe it, you're better off. If you can believe that God has something great in your future, you're better off than you were when this pandemic started. Because there's some people who think because of the pandemic, watch this, don't shout, don't knock nothing over. There's some people who think that because of the pandemic, God then changed his mind. Some people think that because of the pandemic, God's plan for your life has been put on pause. No, God is still doing what he said he was going to do. Man, come on in here now. He's still going to do what he said he's going to do. Why? Because God doesn't stop. He neither sleeps nor slumbers. He's up all the time. His hands are never idle. So if you can just believe that your future is going to be better, if you just believe that there's a possibility that I'm going to come out of this, and in coming out of this, I'm going to be better off than I was before I went in. If you can get that mentality, that's you being better. You need to hear this word, because Peter has no idea of what God's about to do in his life. He's clueless. And Jesus gives him a word before it happens. Now, if I had time, I ain't got no time. Y'all, yes, I do. It's a recording. Listen. Peter doesn't know what God's going to do. But Jesus does. And he gives them the word. Okay, let me put it together. Peter don't know what's going to happen, but Jesus does. And based upon what Jesus knows, he gives Peter a word. Here's the shouting point, y'all. That right now, God is telling you what you need to remember, because he's going to use you for those that God uses. You need to remember this word, because God's going to use you greatly. Well, how you know he's going to use me greatly? Because you don't know what he knows. And because he knows what he knows, he's giving you a word for it right now. In other words, he wouldn't have let you tune in. He would not have allowed you to stay on. He would have not given you strength to resist scrolling or just liking and moving on. But he's impressing on you even now to share and to comment, not being spooky. I believe I'm talking to somebody, because God is saying to you that I'm giving you this word now, because I know what I'm getting ready to do to you. And a good father always prepares his child not only for the problem, but he also prepares them for the possibilities. That's the conversation that's going on. Listen to it. Simon, Simon, behold, Satan desires you. And he wants you so he can sift you like wheat. Watch it now. But Simon, yeah, Jesus. Did you hear what I said? Yeah, you said Satan desires to sift me like wheat. I don't know where that's coming from. I ain't done nothing. I ain't asked no questions or nothing. I learned that. I'm keeping my mouth closed. Why you? Yeah, that's right. He desires to sift you like wheat. But I've prayed for you. And when you come back again, I want you to strengthen your brother. So what Peter has got to be thinking, I know I would have been thinking, based upon how Luke sets that thing out. Man, what's next? Lord have mercy. And then Peter, no doubt, trying to let this thing not be, and boy's all over the place. His response, he's all over the place, no doubt. But in Jesus' statements to him, that no doubt he felt comfort, perhaps, confused, I would think. But we benefit from it. Peter lived it so we can learn.
Satan, we're gonna tear your kingdom down, oh Lord.
Satan, we're gonna tear your kingdom down.
You've been
building your kingdom
all over.
Satan, we're gonna tear your kingdom down.
the mothers are gonna pray your kingdom down.